It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Mr. Smooth and Savvy is joined by guests from all walks of life, from the entertainment industry to authors to political and social commentators, the famous and not so famous, the controversial and the light and fluffy. We have it all. Now, here's Douglas Coleman.
Okay, please welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show, Jared Cohn. Hey, Jared, how are you?
I'm doing great, Yeah, absolutely pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for coming on the show. First off, I've got to say that you are now the second director that I've had on who directed Bruce Willis. About a year ago, I had Wes Miller on, who directed A Day to Die. Do you know Wes?
I don't know him personally, no, but I know of him.
Okay. So he was on like a year ago promoting A Day to Die. And then I looked at your bio, and you directed and wrote Vendetta, right, which came out last year? Yeah,
and also Deadlock had Bruce Willis in it. So, yeah, 2 movies.
Oh, wow.
I had the opportunity
to
that's
work great.
With Bruce. Bruce is great.
Yeah, I'm sorry he's having health issues. I know he's kind of retired now, but do you know how he's doing?
I don't know any more than what the media. But I hope he's doing well. I know he's got a great support system and a lot of people in his corner, myself included. So I'm definitely sending him the best, but I don't have any inside information, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, Bruce is great and one of my favorite actors, and I was sad to hear that he was having some medical problems, but hopefully he'll get through it all.
Yeah, no, there's so many advances in the medical community. So wouldn't be surprised if something comes and he gets better with some of these newer treatments.
Yeah, definitely. So you got a book. I thought when I first saw your name come through, I thought you were going to be promoting a film, but you're actually promoting your book, right?
Yeah, and ironically, I do have also a movie coming out 4 days after the book comes out. But yes, I am promoting the book called 50 Movies Made. It's basically my story of directing 50 feature-length movies and lessons and takeaways and sort of all that packed in the pages. But yeah, it's been a project I've been working on for a while, and it comes out May 15th, and yeah, super excited to share it.
Just a couple days, yeah. Well, you know what? I'm glad you wrote this book because I don't know how many books like this are out there. I haven't heard of any, but there's an awful lot of people doing film along with everything else these days because the internet and technology has sort of kicked the door wide open to make it accessible to people. Back when I was, 20 years old, nobody was making film because you had to do it on real film, and it was just too expensive. Nobody could afford it. Yeah. But now with digital imaging, anybody with a good phone can make a film. And and there's a lot of it out there. A lot of it is good. A lot of it is not so good. But there's just a lot more of everything, of people, of outlets. How many streaming services are out there now? With thousands, right? And the whole market is just completely saturated. So I'm glad that you wrote this because for people that are starting out who have this dream and want to make film, I think it's important that they understand what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah.
Can I ask how old you are?
I am now just turned 41.
41. Okay. So when you started making films, it was already the digital was already there, right? Or did you start on 35 millimeter or 16?
Yeah, 30. Well, I started as an actor, and those projects the good projects were all shot on film. When I was casting something, it was it was really as I was making the transition from actor to filmmaker. That's when the red camera just came out, and that was really what I define as the moment digital cinema became a real thing. Was when the Red 1 camera came out. And so I had the first movie I directed was on a more of a prosumer digital, but the first real movie that I directed, which is really technically the third movie, that was shot on the Red camera.
Oh, okay. It's funny about digital imaging because as beautiful as it is and easy to work with, to manipulate and edit and do all of that stuff, there is certain films that come out that it just looks a little bit odd. Like you're expecting it to have a 35 millimeter look, which I know you can add back in post. Which I find very ironic. You shoot it in digital and then add the effect, right?
The effect, there's no real. There's people have been since the dawn of digital, video recording. There's been film effects, but there's no actual film effect. A movie shot on film has a true filmic quality, and no matter what effect or plug-in or camera you shoot it on, it's not film.
It's not going to.
Everybody says, you can do this or that filter. It's just the best thing you can actually do is if you shoot on digital, is you get your film turned into actual film. You can scan it you can have your film turned into film, and then from that scan you re-scan it back into digital, and that's a old telesending process.
Okay, well that's funny, because you know what, it's the same with musicians, and the old school musicians still like tape because it just has a warmth. It's analog. It has a warmth that digital doesn't have, and so they do the same process. They can record it on digital and then dump it onto tape and then bring it back, to get, so it's the same thing, really.
Try to get some of those organic, just it does. I think that's probably the best thing you can do, is if that's really what you're looking for. I mean, obviously the best thing to do is shoot on film, but if you can't afford, today's day and age, it's cost prohibitive. You got to buy the film. Not only you got to buy the film, you got to you got to develop the process. You got to you got to hire people that know how to load film, and that's
right. It's a whole different
lost art.
Yeah, it's a whole different game. And then plus your dailies. With digital you can have endless takes, and with film, it's just the dollars are clicking away every time you reshoot. But all right, well, we're getting a little bit off topic here. So what were some of the lessons? I know this is going to sound sort of cliche, but what would be the very first thing that you would give as advice or a tip to somebody if they came to you and said, hey, I want to be a filmmaker too? What would be the first thing you'd tell them?
I would really have them take a big look at their life and ask them if they're prepared. Assuming this person is coming out of high school, 17, 18,
20, whatever. Yeah.
That they got to be prepared. Really, you got to be prepared to work very, very hard for what could be, 20 plus years, and potentially not really get anywhere, or maybe get, it's a dice roll. You really have to really make sure you're understanding that you're ready to donate your youth, the remainder of your youth, to this pursuit to become a filmmaker, a working filmmaker, because it's a dice roll, and A, it's a dice roll, and B, you the level of output has, at least for me, had to be just extremely high to get anywhere. So I would make it's like a Navy SEAL. You gotta. Everybody wants to be a SEAL, but only 5% of the hundreds of people that make it to the final program. It's just really hard. And by hard, I mean opportunities, months may go on, and the hard part is actually the quiet time. It's not that it's hard work in that you'll wake up and you have nothing to do for days and days and days, and you're just trying to proactively make stuff happen with nothing, unless you know people. Assuming you know people, you can work those contacts. But if you don't know anybody and you're new, like that's a brutal because you're up against like a black hole.
Yeah,
that could just take your time and soul, eventually suck your soul.
Well, that's
not a good way. I mean, when you're 20, you want to be living life, right?
There's sort of two components to making film. Number one is you got to get the money up to make it, right? That's the first step. And then assuming you get the film made, then you've got a marketing. And that's a whole nother realm. For the indie filmmaker, you've got to kind of wear all the different hats, don't you? You've got to do all of that yourself, unless you've got enough money to pay somebody else to do it for you.
Oh, yeah. If you have the money, you're independently wealthy, and you can make films, then you probably shouldn't even. My book is not really right for that person.
It's not geared for those people.
That's not really geared. You have the money, then, because if you have the money, then you can make the films whenever you want. You can cast whoever you want, but making films are very expensive. And what happens is a lot of people that do have the money, they come to town. They may have they don't really know much, so the people they'll meet are going to give them the premium rate, and they'll spend a few $100,000, they'll spend maybe $500,000, and then they'll make that movie, and because they're not smart, because they didn't necessarily cast the right people, or they overspent on production, or they didn't know, they got worked with the wrong distribution co- like they're just going to lose all that money. The movie will come, someone will put the movie out, it'll be on some platforms, for sure, as long as it looks good, and I'm sure whatever, but it won't make money, and you see a lot of these. I've seen so many of those people come and go. They come and make a film, they lose it all, or maybe they make a little bit of it back and they never make another movie again. That story has been told, and that 100,000 million times, and to this day is happening, all the time. So,
well, there's the artistic dilemma for the writer and for the director and the actors that the studio doesn't have necessarily. I'm talking like major studios, where they would rather, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but they would rather have a lousy movie that makes money than have a great movie that doesn't make money.
Well, I mean, it's a business,
It's a business,
really, and
exactly.
if you want to survive in this business, you have to know the rules and regulations, and like making a movie is very. You have to spend like your cast. Think about your cast as real estate, right? If you want to buy a house, right? You want to invest. You're going to invest in a good area, right? You're going to and by good area, it means a star name. So if you have $1 million and you're making a movie, probably the smart thing to do is give, find an actor that's truly worth $700,000, right? And give that one actor that $700,000, and now you have a big juicy name. You can make your movie for $300,000 if it's written to be, which it should be written smartly, and then now you have a great movie. Now you have a very profitable movie because you have a big star in it, and stars are what sell movies at the end of the day. And then no matter how cool the movie could be shot, you could have all sorts of stunts and things blowing up, which does increase the value, but nothing increases the value more than a name.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, it says on here too that these would be tips for directors, producers, and screenwriters.
Oh, yeah.
The indie guy, theoretically, would be doing all three of those things himself, right?
Yeah, I mean, the indie guy is going to have to write, produce, direct, handle distribution, marketing. So, I mean, really, the indie guy is going to have to do 20 different jobs, or even more than what a studio would have. A studio would have all those jobs. So if you're an indie guy and it's your film, your money, all that's on the line. So there's, advice for that. And I've been that guy, and I'm still that guy in many ways. So there's just there's so much information, and you only can learn it really the hard way. And hopefully, from me learning it the hard way, I can at least give people a heads up. So when they are in a similar situation, and then I'm not saying this book is not gonna help you circumvent the hard problems, because you're still gonna have to deal with it, but it'll at least inform you of some potential pitfalls. And I've pretty much stepped in every pitfall there is, like an idiot. But again.
Well, give us one example of one of those that you stepped in.
Yeah, so the first, I'll tell you this, it's kind of the same story a few different times. The first movie I made, Carpenter, took out all my money, made a horror film, and I thought I did everything right. I made a good low-budget horror film, but I trusted the wrong people. I trusted the wrong producer. I trusted, a wrong distribution strategy, and I basically got took. I lost it all. And what should have been like a good directorial debut that could have made money and led to another, and could have changed everything. Could have changed the entire direction of my career and got things going right way. But I trusted the wrong people. I went with the wrong company. I had the wrong, producer help me out. And they, not only did they essentially take and hold the movie hostage, and by literally hold the movie hostage, there was equipment that was allegedly went missing on the very, very last day. And so this producer, quote unquote, was saying, "Oh, I'm not giving you the rest of the footage until you file an insurance claim and get me paid for this missing equipment." It was such just a dirty thing, and I all from hiring a producer that was supposed to help me out, that just took advantage of me. So that was really a lesson. And then the movie didn't make any money because the distribution company wasn't the right company. It was kind of just who the first offer that came I took, and I didn't do any due diligence. I was too excited. I thought everything was just going to be easy, and I got my ass kicked financially, and then mentally it was hard. Mentally I had to leave LA and go back home, where New York. I had no money, so yeah, and then later on, having learned when I made another movie, putting more money into it, and really kind of did the due diligence, and again, but I didn't, screwed that up as well. And that was just because of a lack of actual experience, working with, distributors. So it really took me like three times to figure out how not to get, and it's documented more clearly, more specifically, the examples are written out exactly what happened with me.
Well, I've heard,
of course, in the book, but
I've heard more horror stories from filmmakers, and I've had a lot of them on the show, over the distribution. And it seems to be those are the ones that you got to be extra careful. Now, that's not to say that all film distributors are, rip-off artists and scam artists. But the one that's coming to mind was a guy that has been on my show a couple of times. He made a film. It was a really good film. It was kind of like a travel vlog sort of thing where they went across the country. I won't go into the whole detail, but it was a really good film, and it got good reviews. He found this distributor, and what ended up happening was the distributor really literally said to them, okay, we'll do this, but you got to let us sleep with the female actor in the movie. Literally said it out loud. And it was just like, oh my God, right? Everybody was horrified. And of course, nothing happened, and then they kept the money and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, it just, but I mean, imagine that, you know?
That's terrible. That's even, that's, I've never heard that, but wow, that's
they literally thought that was,
evil.
that was cool, that was okay, that they could just say, okay, you let us sleep with her. I mean, I know that there's been all those stories with Harvey Weinstein and all the different, and the proverbial casting couch, but to just say it right out loud like it's perfectly okay. When I heard that, I was just like, oh my God, you know. So my point.
I mean, there's so many ways, and that's why I'm really, I like. I mean, there's great companies out there, but I also really like companies like what Film Hub is doing with self-distribution, and I think there's a whole. I think we're coming to a point. Filmmakers are coming to a point where, you know, they're realizing, and companies are realizing, yeah, if you just are honest, you know, and you lay it out like Film Hub is, you know, being a very transparent self-distribution platform, you know, you can do well. You can make money and do right by everybody at the same time. It's like you don't have to be screwballs, you know.
Yeah, on your knees in someone's office, literally, right?
Yeah, literally, yeah, exactly. It's
well, you know what?
There's a lot of characters, unsavory characters in this industry, and
oh yeah, for sure.
At every turn of every corner, no matter what you're trying to do, there's like the right way, and then there's a scam.
Yeah. And
then you have to like figure out what the scams are. There's so many scams within this industry, and ways to, you know, unfortunately.
Well, I'm happy to hear that about Film Hub, because, you know, it's gone that way as well for authors. And I mean, since you wrote the book, but that was a few years ago where you could self-publish on Amazon. And I thought,
Amazon, yeah. Thank God for these big. I mean, people talk a lot of bad things about big companies, but look at what Amazon did for authors. It's incredible. So you can self-publish a book and get your honest reporting, and honest. You could do your own marketing, and it's like there's no more veil. There's no more like third middleman that has to know everything that can
takes a big piece of your money. Right.
Yeah, the middlemen of the world. You know, some of them are for the, you know, the good guys. You know, are good, but there's a lot of opportunities to be, you know, to take, but then not let the person know. You know, it's just like that's then you get into blockchain and you know, all those, like why those things, why those ideas are at least, you know, appealing to people.
Exactly.
You know, that you can go right from. That's a whole other conversation. Yeah.
Well, we're kind of running down on time, but I wanted to hit one more of these before we say goodbye, and that's about screenwriting, because there's another part to this filmmaking part. I wrote a couple of things years ago, and I had no idea what to do with it. And people said, "Oh, you got to get an agent, and they'll shop it around." Then there are a couple of DIY sites that you can submit. You can also pay people who are allegedly in the business that will read and review your screenplay. So what do you recommend for first-time screenwriters? Where do they take their work?
I mean, I'll touch on a few of those things. Yeah, first of all, getting an agent, a good agent, is like one of the hardest things to do for an actor, for a writer, for a director. That's, you know, I talk about that a lot in my book, because that's basically extremely complicated and difficult. And but in terms of writing, what to do with writing, there's a lot of information for writers. I mean, I went to Pitch Fest, where it was like speed dating for screenwriters. I submitted to contests. I've paid people to read. I've done it all.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the answer, is you got to do it all. Like, some of those are scams, though. Like, to be very careful who you give money to look at your script. There's a lot of reputable coverage services that will read your script, give you great feedback, and if it's good, actually will pass it up the food chain to a legitimate, producer or agent, representative, whatever. There are those companies that exist, and I would recommend, if you don't have the contacts, that you should have your script on all those different. I mean, not all of them. The ones that are Blacklist, and there's only a few very reputable ones, and that's actually important. So always do your research, because even if an agent comes to you, you might be like, oh gosh, I reached out to this agent, but it could be a guy in a garage who's been an agent for a week, who's going to be another, who's only going to be around for another 2 weeks, who's not really an agent, and so there's a lot of scams, pitfalls that'll suck your time and suck your money. You just got to be there's got to be really, really cognizant and aware. But the advice is you got to make it a great script. Make it as best as script you can. It's not a how-to. The book isn't a how-to write a great script or how to direct a movie. It's not. There's so many books about that. So this is sort of my take on things, but it covers that. Yeah, it handles that. How do you get an agent that's actually that's worth your time? 99% of agencies are a waste of time, or maybe 98.
Yeah,
I'll be nice. 98% of them are.
Well, it's the same thing with authors. I mean, if you submit your work to one of the big 5 publishing houses in New York, 90% of what they get goes straight into the bin. They don't even look at it. And they won't even look at it if you're unsolicited.
They won't. Exactly. How do you get an agent? It's like people will still be like, oh, I still haven't got the answer. I'm like, well, the answer is very complicated. You have to make a hit thing that everybody wants. So it doesn't work like how do you get the agent. Really, how you should think about it is what you should do. So the agent is trying to get you. You
exactly.
need to have a hit thing. You need to have. If you put yourself in the agent's shoes, I want to represent a guy who's making money, who has a hit book, who has a hit script. And how did he get a script? He won the hottest screenwriting contest in town. Okay, well, why does that guy's gonna get called by the agent? It's simple. It's not simple. But it's just, I just gotta have a hit thing. Yeah, basically. Yeah, you gotta do something that you gotta do something on your own that proves that you're ready.
You're marketable.
High level.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're monetizable.
All right. Well, that's what's changed. That's what's changed with the internet, and I would say that it's kind of a double-edged sword, because the days of somebody discovering you when you're a no-name nobody is going to be a lot more rare than it used to be. I mean, it was rare then, but it's more rare now because people are looking. The first thing they're going to do is go to your social media, and they're going to see, how many followers you got, how many likes you got, how many views you got. And if you're up in
but it's also,
yeah.
Now you have a number. Look, now you actually have a number of where you're at. It's good and it's bad.
It's good and it's bad.
Sure, because you have a path. You can say, look, you know what? I'm gonna keep making these short videos until I have 1 million followers, or when you have 1 million followers, you're not asking, how do I get an agent? Because you've probably been hit up by 5 agents already. So at least you know what that looks like. You know what I mean? And how to get there. How do you get to 1 million followers? It's the same question of how do you get to an agent? How do you get to 1 million followers? The answer is exactly the same.
Well, I know for music that works. That's an actual formula. If you put up a music video and it gets over 1 million views, you will get contacted by record labels who want to take a piece of that.
I'm sure, yeah. It's and it's probably the same thing with the follower amounts for an actor. If you have if you have that many followers, a brand, any brand is going to hit you up, an agency, because you can make money, because you have an audience.
That's what it's all about. Yeah. That's exactly right. Jared, we got to wind this down. Thank you so much for coming on. My guest is Jared Cohn. The book is called 50 Movies Made, Lessons Learned on a Filmmaker's Journey. You said the book comes out
May 15th. Yeah, May 15th at midnight on the 14th. So I'm
all
going
right.
to say
we'll count it down by the hours. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I'm looking. Yeah, we're looking at the clock.
Okay. Well, listen, thanks so much for coming on. It was nice chatting with you. Last question. Do you have a website you want to give out?
Yes. My name, jaredcohn.com. And there's a link to the book, link to other stuff on there, JaredCohn. No E. A lot of people says Jared Cohen. No Co. Just jaredcohn.com.
Like Roy Cohn.
Like Roy Cohn, Harry Cohn. Yeah, exactly.
Harry Cohn.
The big.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Roy Cohn too. Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. Old school Hollywood.
Old school Hollywood. Yeah. If you've ever seen that interview with Orson Welles on Dick Cavett, he talks about Harry Cohn, and it's a great interview.
Yeah. No, I love all things old Hollywood. So in another world, I'd be a studio executive at a big, or maybe.
Well, if you'd
or
been
outside the fence trying to get in.
Yeah, if you had been born 100 years ago, you would have been perfectly in line to be there during the silent days.
Yeah, the good old days.
The good old days. All right, Jared. Well, thanks again for coming on, and best of luck with the book launch. Hope it does well.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.